Diagonal Nuestras Historias para saber más. Un mensaje de the Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
In Nebraska, we show up when friends need help. We check in on our neighbors. That's why it's important to know the warning signs of suicide. If you have a friend or neighbor who's withdrawn, stressed, agitated, or talks about suicide, find out how you can help. Call, text, or chat 988 for 24/7 support. You have the power to save a life. Paid for by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
It's time to go one-on-one with DP. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Derek Pearson, brought to you by Canopy Street Market.
Boom! In your face. In your face! On a Sunday. What, you thought I was done? Thought I was done? You know I love you more than that. I love you more than that. People, an opportunity to spend an hour with you. I said this yesterday on one-on-one with Nick, that we are extremely blessed to get to do this thing any day, every day. That I love it so much I would do it for free. And I don't get paid for this. But I like the idea of being in a community and being able to share. We've got listeners who hang out with us on the weekends, and I'm grateful for it. John and Cortland, Sundo and Lincoln, Bill and Bennett, Ben, Crowbait. Listen, I'm fully honored that people want to spend time with us here on The Ticket. And so every opportunity we get to do this, and I was talking to Pete Ferguson earlier today about the two types of people, the get to and want to people versus the have to and got to people. Mm. And there is a difference between people who live their life as though they get to live life. They get to embrace. They get to go through friction. They get to go through a struggle because on the other side of that is something spectacular. Friction is required. Pressure is required for growth and for us to have conversations and to get to love on each other. Getting to and wanting to is a statement of positive love, that we get to sit and have these conversations about things we care about, right? And that we share bits and pieces of us for other people to connect to. And they get to connect with us. And, you know, Sundo hit me hard with the Edges theme.
Yeah, it was the perfect one.
Like that. Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah.
That was so good.
We used to listen to that just like in the car. I was like, you know, you put it on your playlist. Like that's how good that song was back in the day.
I'm old enough to remember when the WWE used to put it. So remember the like the NBA jams.
Oh yeah.
There's a CD a music CD that came out, and it would come out every few months. Where the WWE would put together the current hot wrestlers
theme songs
on a CD, and those things, I played those things in my bar all the time. It was amazing. If you wanted people to get hyped up for a happy hour, start playing some WWE. hit some sexy boy Shawn Michaels back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And the glasses immediately went to the sky. Like immediately raised glasses. So in finding commonalities is what sports radio and talk radio is finding a common theme and then trying to share it with people and have them share their experience with you, because the experiences aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
We think the greatest assumption that kills us is that we think everybody experiences what we experience or knows what we know. And that's just not true. You have to be curious. You have to ask somebody, what do you love? Why do you love it? And it's always the thing that you start to identify. So in this hour, what I'd like to do is ask listeners, Harrison, I'm going to ask you these questions as well, to figure out why you love what you love, because it is a full statement of who you are.
Yeah.
What you root for, who you root for, the person that you identify as your superhero, right? Those are important things. So you can be a part of what we're doing. The Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. You want to be a part of what we're doing? Hit me up. Harrison and I will take you through the next hour. Greatly appreciate you can follow on all the streams as you are, and you should be on the streams. Of course, the Royals are doing their thing.
Yeah, they'll be, I believe it's 3:10 start, so usually 40-minute pregame, 2:30. So we'll probably get some Bills thrills for you guys for about half an hour there, and
Right,
then it should be Royals 2:30.
To get those in. Also, we need to be purposeful in clipping up some of the AJ Ferrari stuff.
Mm-hmm.
From some of it was on one-on-one, some of it was on
The black shirt.
Bach and the black shirt. So let's get both of them. He also likes that if we share his stuff that we do between 1 and 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So for tomorrow, we can cue some things up, and we will have him back.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He
great storyteller.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff in it. It'll be a really cool week this week as well. Carricker's camp is Wednesday, so we'll be at his camp from 9 to 1 on Wednesday. So we'll do that as well. Couple of things. I think it's fantastic that in the space that we're in, sports fans love to identify as part of a family. That's what being a sports fan is.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a similar or shared love of a game and the people or the people who play it. Now, there's different fans because there are people that love baseball. There are people who love the people who play baseball because of the way they play it or what they represent. And they're not always tied together. In this day and age of transfer portal, free agency, and pro sports, that you often have to make the decision, are you rooting for the team, the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between me rooting for Lincoln, the things that make Lincoln, Nebraska better. Sports has been the engine and motor for that for a long time. That Lincoln it's better on Sunday morning, Monday morning when the Husker football is playing well.
Mm-hmm. It's
better on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Oh, look at that dog outside the window. Sir, bring me that dog. Oh,
we counted just the time.
Oh, that dog is adorable. That Lincoln is better. Husker Nation is better when Husker volleyball is playing well. PBA and Haymarket is a different place when Husker basketball, men's or women, is playing well. The Keisei Tamanaga days really set fire to the Haymarket. It felt different.
Mm-hmm.
Haymarket Park is different when Husker baseball is competing for Big Ten titles. It's just a different vibe. Then the question is why? And if you understand why, there are people who love baseball, there are people that love basketball, but there are people who only love Husker baseball, Husker basketball. There are people who love Husker football that don't necessarily love NFL football. Different connection, different value, different identity. So, Harrison, I ask you a series of questions. We'll start with this. Do you love football, or were you born on loving Husker football?
I love football because I like the Bears more than the Huskers at first. Growing up.
What Husker player were you a fan of first? Who was the one that you just go, yeah, that guy made me love Husker?
This guy made me love Husker. Jordan Westerkamp. You remember the play with the behind the back? Yeah. Like, that was just insanity to me. And then that was also a great era, because then you're like, oh, this Kenny Bell guy is pretty good too. Who's this? And then you get the what was that, Ron Kellogg III, Hail Mary, Northwestern. So that was just a great year to really lock in on that team right there. Even though some people weren't super big fans of Bo Pelini, 9 wins. There's a lot of excitement, and there's some really awesome guys, and even a guy like Kenny Bell, who's always back in the local community. Like, also just really good guys that were easy to be fans of.
I mean, think about it this way: that everybody has a moment, or at least a series of moments, that made you care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing, is that you care. And you, at some point, you realize that dinner tastes better after a Husker football win. Right? Like, there's no whatever beverage of choice, it's better when the Huskers win.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a moment where you start to tie into, I'm starting to identify that this is who I am. A part of me is a part of Nebraska football, right? That a part of me is tied to, I'm emotionally invested in Husker football. And the Westerkamp moment, for folks your age, that makes perfect sense. There are listeners who became fans for a variety of reasons. And I've told the story of my becoming aware of Nebraska football for a variety of reasons. Even before Johnny Rodgers' punt return, that being impressed by Jerry Tagge playing in the torn uniform, right, in the great tearaways, or Rich Glover being covered head to toe in pads. Yeah. Like, I'd never seen anybody. And then you realize that he wasn't a very big man.
And he's still able to get 22 tackles versus Oklahoma
in the biggest game, right? In the game of the century, that he put this package together, and you go, okay, this is what you buy into. I think for most folks, if you ask them, and text line, you can feel free to go in and tell us who made you love Husker football or football. You're a Bears fan. What's your first Bears memory?
Oh man, it really goes back to the Super Bowl when they're playing the Colts, and they ended up losing it. But the first one to the house, special teams. Like, I was kind of my brother Sawyer, to give some context, was a Packers fan, and every time the Bears were playing the Packers, it was a big deal. And make sure you get in front of the TV, and then you're just kind of watching. And then obviously he's my older brother, so then naturally I was like, well, let me just pick the Bears so I can root against my brother. And then and then it worked out really well on that short timeline. And it's crazy to think. I mean, the best players was like Brian Urlacher. You've had some rough years, but also some phenomenal players. But yeah, I mean, that was probably about it. I think, what was that, 06?
That's a run where you.
So it would have been 7, I think.
Well, you have to say that not everybody's fandom is crafted the same way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's through commiserating, right? That you connect on. Oh boy, dang. Dang. Like, and they talk about, well, misery loves company.
Yeah.
That in the sports world, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like, people can identify Red Sox and Cubs fans for the longest time talked about how much they hated the Yankees and the Mets because they spent money, the Dodgers. Like, they hated the Dodgers because they spent money and they could have all the nice things. They could it was across the tracks. It's the difference between a Lincoln private school and a Lincoln public school. Lincoln High is the school that identifies the culture of Lincoln, Nebraska more than any other, except to people who attend Pies to 10. And there's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. If you're a directional Lincoln school, you don't hold the same level of pride that folks who, when Lincoln High was it. When Lincoln High was it. And I need to find old heads who could tell me what the Lincoln rivalry was. Because Lincoln High was the thing. And then you started to fraction off.
Mm-hmm.
What was high school? Do you know what high school number 2 was here?
I got no idea. It was, I was up in that northeast corner. I'm 3 hours up north. Yeah. So, like, I can tell you, the small town, right? It's interesting when you get to the small towns, because it becomes it almost gets another level because it's different cities.
It's all you have.
Yes.
It's all you have.
So I can tell you about those Crofton Warriors, about how much we despise them, and the Crofton Warriors tell us about us being a bunch of preppy.
Okay,
Cedar
so that was
Catholic
the
kids.
thing, right?
Big rivalry.
But you think about, and it's so funny to me that you just said that there are factions of farm cities, farm towns that were considered preppy.
Yes.
In Nebraska.
Town of 1600, a bunch of preppy.
How did that happen? How does that?
You get a church, and to begin, when I went to a prep school, it's like you didn't have to spend a ton of money. It was just a little bit of money to get in there.
A little bit of money.
Like, we didn't get
a little bit of money.
It was, I should say, not
That's
a little
funny.
bit. It's significant. Shout out to my parents for doing what they did for me. But
Right.
it's not like we were coming in and the money was pouring in. Like, we didn't have centralized AC by the time I think I graduated yet. And I graduated in 2018, and we didn't have.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the town proper? What is your hometown?
Hartington, Nebraska.
Huntington, Nebraska.
Hardington,
Nebraska. Population was 1,600. Is that what you're telling?
It's probably lower now. It's probably closer to 12, 1,300.
And your graduating class was how many people?
We were a big class, so 40.
You said that out loud.
Yeah.
You said, like,
we were a big class.
I was expecting a whole nother number.
Well, I mean, you got to think a town of 1,300. You get, 40 kids, pretty good number.
That
I'm just being honest.
but you and I have had this conversation before, and I had this to try to figure out. Again, the great assumption that we make is that everybody had similar existences and similar experiences, and it's that you have to be curious about where a person comes from because it tells you who they are. Like in full, you understood. How many people do you think came to your high school football games?
We had pretty good crowds. I'm going to say probably 500-700. I'd say around there.
So a big portion of the town.
Yeah, but town probably filled that place up pretty good.
And then your neighboring town was?
Neighboring towns, I mean, you pick any direction. You go to Crofton, which was, probably the closest rival. And then it gets interesting because then you get to cool schools like Ponca, Wahoo, Bloomfield, but they're lower division.
What class was?
We were C2. And it used to be C1, but it was C2 when I was growing up.
And then your rivals, were they also C2 or were they just proximity? Right.
So C2 because of crop, and that was proximity, and they were C2, so we'd meet them. And then the other schools, like we always played Wayne, and Wayne was like the preppy kids, ironically, because
like
they're
real
in a big,
preppy.
yeah, because they're in a big city up there. Right. And then Norfolk Catholic. Then there was a prep on prep rivalry. So it was really interesting. The small town stuff to me, I mean, that stuff's fun.
So how was the choice made between being Nebraska private and Nebraska public?
My parents just gave us the keys. So my oldest brother Everett chose public, and then transferred to Cedar Catholic like his sophomore year. The next two brothers just stayed to public because the Hartington Public School is literally right across the street from the private Catholic school. So then, my parents just gave our kids the keys, and so my next two brothers just stayed K through 12 at Hartington Public, and then in fourth grade, I was like, you know what, I want to do what my older brother did. I'm going to transfer.
Did they have better facilities, better school, newer?
Fine arts, sports. One was much better at fine arts. One was much better at sports. My two middle brothers are excellent speakers. It is like one of the best abilities. Really good actors. They'd win state all the time in one act and stuff. And then over at Cedar Catholic was like athletes. If you want to go play sports and you think that's your best chance. And then I also had just a ton of friends at Cedar as well.
So who are the alumni, the notable alumni from your high school?
Russ Hookstein's one. He went to Cedar Catholic, and he won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, playing on the offensive line. Stephen Hillis, I'd have to really look at honorable mentions. There's probably some that I'm just going to be blanking on from the past, but Stephen Hillis was like close to my age. He went to Air Force on scholarship and everything. Mm-hmm. And the guy was in such great shape that he had diabetes and didn't realize it until the Air Force finally figured it out for him. There's probably some other really great ones, but I don't know how much in the sports world, probably more just big time farmers that have just been around there forever.
And then did you play 8-man, 11-man football?
We were 11.
You were 11-man.
Yeah.
With just 40 in the graduating class.
Yeah. Every kid goes out for football.
Everybody played.
I mean, that's why you go to some of the kids go to Cedar, right? I want to go play in this place where there's way bigger interest in sports. So in football, you really just had about every kid going out. An occasional class wouldn't, but about all of us did.
And then for basketball, what did that mean for you?
That meant so basically you go, you try out. There's still freshman, JV, and varsity.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a lot easier to get on varsity if you've got smaller classes, but same thing. Everyone was pretty into basketball, and me at 6'2" was playing the 5. So that gives you a little bit of insight about what, it's look at small schools where they have offensive linemen too. And it's like, one of these guys is going to be way undersized and way too small, but I have to make it work. And the same thing applies to basketball. You're going to get some guys that you're not a center, but you know what? We're going to have to make it work because you're the tallest one we have in this class.
Like, I think about it this way, and I learned more about it going from Northern Virginia, DC 6A, where even in that space, for whatever reason, every school I was at was the smallest 6A in the state, right? Like, I never had the biggest numbers. There were some factories that would have 120 kids, and we go out there with our 42 and have to make it work. And then Utah, I was private school. The public schools put numbers, 120, 125 kids, some kids with duplicate jersey numbers, right? The JV kids, out there. And then when I got to Houston, the Woodlands, the school that they had the two big powerhouse. Well, they had a bunch of power. Houston's huge. Houston Metro is huge. So the big schools are like colleges. They're like universities. But I chose to coach at a private, and it was 3A in Texas. But on top of being private, it was exclusive private school in that it only chose 50 boys, 50 girls for each grade. And you had to get in academically. So the highest achieving 50 boys in a grade, 50 girls, and they had to pay $35,000 a year. So
you're in that elite.
So
right
you're
there.
in the elite bracket, and it's an academic warehouse. But the fact that you only had 50 boys in the senior class to choose from, not everybody was going to play. So imagine you probably got 12. That generally was kind of the space, 12, 10 to 15, depending on the sport. And then you would hope that you had the same numbers for the junior class. You would hope that was it. But you also had to count on the sophomore class, the freshman class to add to. And it was just different. Like, it was just different. The likelihood of you finding a 7-footer, pretty minimum. We got one. His dad played at Stanford. And he was a big time executive for an oil company in Houston, and his kid just happened to be enrolled early before they were sure he was going to be a 6-footer. He ended up he played defensive end for me, defensive end and tight end
at 7 foot.
As a freshman, he was.
He wasn't quite there. Okay, he was
6'5", 6'6" as a freshman.
Still, that's a terrifying size.
It was crazy, and he ended up playing at VMI, Virginia Military Academy. Institute. But he was one of one. You didn't have a bunch of 6'9", and then of course his senior year he transferred to the public school because that was how he was going to get a scholarship. So small towns matter, how you facilitate in it, but it helps core who you are. That small town where more people, more about the people you know.
Yeah.
You don't know
more about you.
Right. Like, you don't know more people. You know more about the people you know. And that is when you talk about who you root for, you can't root for big city if you're a small town person. It goes against the core. It goes against it. It's fully up. Like, I'm
like
always
fighting your own DNA.
Well, to figure out why so many Husker fans became Niner fans. Well, because there was a run of Husker players who were drafted by or became free agents to the 49ers, and the thing mattered. And that's before it was all regionalized. That the NFL, the draft was regional. So Nebraska players tended to go to Denver, Chicago, Kansas City because they were closer geographically. And that's how it was done. And the fact that Tom Osborne ended up in DC as a free agent, just, I was like, okay, that's fantastic. But there's still fans who root for Washington because Tom Osborne went. And there was a run the 70s. George Allen of the Redskins, Hall of Fame coach, loved players from Nebraska. So to go and get Ron McDowell and Pat Fisher, guys who were Huskers, like, I didn't know how many Husker players came through the Redskins back in the day, because you just didn't think about it. So, yeah, it's an interesting why you love what you love. We're going to jump into basketball because I do want to know why you love what you love. And that is a full explanation. Harrison Orange, one-on-one. We'll be right back.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with the child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Play ball! Ready for summer fun and ballpark vibes? Bring your pack to Haymarket Park for a thrilling season of Lincoln Salt Dogs baseball and unleash the fun. From May through August, the Lincoln Salt Dogs will be playing and the park will be popping with all the food, drinks, and fun you need for the perfect night out. Grab your friends, family, and coworkers and make plans now. Visit saltdogs.com to secure your tickets. Come on out to the park and unleash the fun.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and test us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Captain with Vershawn Jackson, Terrell Farley, and Jake Bakoven.
I'm looking at a mirror. I'm sitting right next to him.
So I was up at the facility earlier today. I had the opportunity to talk to the 2025 Nebraska Cornhuskers. But man, those dudes were locked in. They were asking questions. I saw the intentionality. I saw the focus. I saw the hunger. And when I'm leaving the meeting, before any of those guys got up, they all waited for Dylan Raiola to address them. And he addressed them and gave the tentative schedule of like what they're going to be. This is Friday. They're free. They're done for the week. And they're talking about the things that they got to do. And that gave me chills.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now, it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey racing fans, this is Brie Marie inviting you to join me and James Rowland for the Finish Line every Sunday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Catch up with the local dirt track drivers, national racers, and everyone you need to know about in the world of racing. Don't spin your wheels, hit the gas, and join us Sundays at 7 p.m. for The Finish Line on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Back to One-on-One with DP, sponsored by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to One-on-One. Doing a quick search. And I asked Harrison Arns, as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I'm just stonewalled by it.
As a Bears fan. Well, but, again, you know how much Haas jokes about it, that the historian in me tends to jump up. Just to connect that Huskers that play for the Bears. You're a Bears fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a quick search, that Prince Amukamara.
Oh, yes, of course.
Finished 3 years with the Bears. Before your time, Cliff Ashburn played for the Bears in 1930. How about this one? Joey Bearquist, who played for the Chicago Cardinals. The Chicago Cardinals. How much Chicago Cardinals gear do you have?
I have Cardinals, St. Louis
Cardinals.
This was the guy I was thinking of on the break, though. It's Zach Bowman.
Zach Bowman played for the Bears.
That was a good deal. That was like Julius Peppers was playing the defensive end from North Carolina.
2008 to 2013. Played 1 year for the Vikings in 2011 and then went back to the Bears. Yeah, there's a full list of players in that space. Mike Brown, 2000 through 2008.
Mike Brown. Josh Bullock's from Sid too. That's another name that's kind of right where I remember 09, 10.
Yep.
So
9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you went through how many Chicago Staleys, the Chicago Staleys, the nickname the Staleys, what is the Staley? Is that I guess that's the owner's name?
Yeah.
The Staleys? The Chicago Staleys.
I think that's the founder's name, right? I would double check.
Well, I thought that was Halos, but I thought it was Halos, but maybe not. Maybe he just bought it. And again, the Chicago Cardinals, the Cleveland Bulldogs.
Oh, it just refers to the original name of the football team because they were A.E. Staley Manufacturing Company.
Yep, that's generally what happened. Well, the Green Bay Packers. That's kind of how names were there. The Browns, of course,
the owner's name was Brown.
Ownership is Brown, so that certainly made sense for them. To go through, let me see here. Through most of this, and again, it's always fascinating just to go back and rehash some names.
I'll be honest, I do feel better going through this list because I'm looking for like former Bears players that were former Huskers, and it's like a lot of stuff before I was them.
Well, Sam Francis back in 1937, and Francis is, I believe, in the Husker Hall of Fame.
Gerald Pippins, 04. He played for the Bears just a year though.
That's a push.
Ray Richards, 1930.
Right, to go back in time. And I love the old names. I love the old team names. That's man.
Oh, Matt Slauson. That's a good one.
Ricky Henry, 2011, 2012. Ricky Henry. Does that name ring a bell?
It just how long he wasn't there for very long, was he?
A couple of years. Tyrone Hughes played for the Bears back in 97. Had a nice run of teams. There were several that played Chicago in the World Football League, and we forget. Harrison.
Prince of Mukamara is probably the most noticeable Husker.
Well, he did call into a show and once tell us the proper enunciation is Amukamara.
Amukamara?
Prince Amukamara.
He was actually on the
ticket.
The best former Husker Bear we've ever had.
Well, this is what I mean. He was on air and somebody asked, and it was Prince Amukamara.
I wonder how many times that happens to athletes and they just don't correct it, and it gets to the point where it's like, I'm not even going to try it.
Well, it was so. I spent my down days, recovering, and the NFL Network was running America's Game, and it goes all the way back to Super Bowl I, all the way up until last year. of the Super Bowl, the stories, the 1-hour stories of the NFL Super Bowl champions. And it's always a great reminder. So they get to the 83 Redskins. And of course, from each of those teams, they pick several people to tell the story of that team and their battle. And in it, Joe Theismann was talking about it, and they tell the story of how the Redskins get Theismann. And Theismann is telling a story that he was drafted by the Miami Dolphins in 70, and he was supposed to be the backup to Bob Greasy, but he didn't want to wait, so he went to Toronto in the CFL. And then as soon as he got to Toronto, he gets a phone call saying that Bob Greasy has just blown out his Achilles, and Theismann would have been the quarterback of the perfect Dolphins teams. And the Dolphins made the 3 consecutive Super Bowls after Theismann was drafted. And he was like, God, he goes, I blew it. I blew it. But he tells the story of how his name pronunciation changed because while at Notre Dame, he's making a bid for the Heisman, and the whoever their marketer was brought him in and said, hey, are you familiar with this trophy called the Heisman? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, we're changing your name to Theismann because we think you can win it. And it's so we can say Theismann for Heisman. He goes, but my name is Theismann. And he goes, it's Theismann.
No way.
And he goes,
that's
literally him just arguing with this guy who's not a member of his family, who changed the pronunciation of his name from Theismann to Theismann.
Theismann for Heisman.
Theismann for Heisman.
That's a good selling pitch.
And he finished second to Jim Plunkett from Stanford. And then the story is that when he finally gets to the Super Bowl, he wins it against the Dolphins. He beats the Dolphins in the Super Bowl to get some of the get back, right? Except for the next year, the Redskins play the Raiders, led by Jim Plunkett, and he loses to Jim Plunkett once again. He loses to Plunkett and the Raiders. But sometimes that happens, that the pronunciation of the name takes over, and the Theismann for Heisman thing legitimately was the thing. Mike Brown, Prince number 2. Oh, John Cortland says Mike Brown is the best.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good one. I forgot you did mention Mike Brown as well.
Yeah, so it's there. You, as a basketball fan, are you a bigger Husker basketball fan than you are NBA fan?
I'll tell you, in the past it was Bulls. Now it's more. Living in Lincoln's done maybe do some mental gymnastics, some more harmful than when I was back in Hartington. And I care more about like my community. And now that I'm in the Lincoln community, living here, paying taxes here, I want these guys to do good. Because if they do good, city of Lincoln does better. The city I live in looks a lot prettier. We got more money to help our own. I don't know. And also just with the Bulls mediocrity. I mean, it's been hard to just like really, you've done this with the Commanders. You're like, are we just staying in the league to participate, or are we trying to do something here? And for the Bulls, feels like we're just okay with grabbing our participation. I still root for them, but it gets hard. For Husker basketball, at least with the players on the court and the coaches there, like I can feel a real want to push and try to win. Not saying I think the players and the coaches probably want to win in the Bulls, but I don't know if the GM and owners are on the same page. So that becomes a hard thing the older I've gotten.
Well, after all the time talking to Jay Foreman, we land on the fact that in any league or conference, there's not, like, everybody's not competing for the title.
Yeah.
They're not working for the title. They're not working. They don't start their offseason under the belief that they can win said title. And it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, what are you doing in the league if your goal isn't to go win it every year?
Well, but think about it. There are still teams that after decades they've never been to Super Bowl, let alone win it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, the NBA crown cannot belong to everybody. Everybody can't win the NBA title. You go through the draft every year, and somebody drafts the number 1 pick with the belief that they think that, well, this will help us win an NBA title. No, Washington hasn't won. They haven't even been in the NBA finals since 1980, 79.
I don't think the Bulls have won a playoff game or series, since 2000. You'd have to go back to this. Do you have to go back to D Rose, Joakim Noah for the last time the Bulls won a playoff?
So
give me yours first.
So the Cavs have won based on LeBron, but before that, they never won. Never won. The Celtics have won a bunch. Knicks haven't won since Willis Reed. Right? Like, they won 2, and they don't even talk about the second one.
No.
They only talk about the Olympic. The Pacers, again, welcome to the party. Welcome to the party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you to have that celebration or to be denied it. The Bucks, Giannis got them back. But prior to that, you're talking about going back to Luau Center. So not everybody, I mean, think about the Detroit Pistons had 3 different eras of quality basketball. The last one, Rip Hamilton and crew.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, the Orlando Magic have never, I'm sorry.
Is there anything in their history? The Dwight Howard Magic's probably the best one, right?
Well, the Shaq Penny Hardaway Magic.
Okay.
Had a legitimate, I mean,
they made it. I'm just thinking my history is like, I remember Dwight Howard, at least he took that team to a finals run, and Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and the Lakers, I think, took him down.
That the Atlanta Hawks have never, and I mean never, won an NBA title. You do business every year in a city that is a hub city.
I was going to say, why can't Atlanta do it? That is a basketball city, or am I wrong?
It's a transient basketball city.
Okay.
It's a transient basketball city. Atlanta is like DC, and it's a transient town that a lot of people aren't from there. And that happens. Atlanta for decades drew only because of who they were playing. And then Dominique had a run, and then they had another run, but not really.
Trae Young was the last one, and they made an Eastern
they
Conference
had
Finals.
Dwight Howard when he made the move from Atlanta because he was from there, but it didn't happen. The Bulls, Heat had runs, but again, if I asked you if you had to bet against them winning the NBA title or betting for, that for most of these franchises, you'd bet against and feel pretty confident about winning the fact that they weren't going to win. If we said Toronto Raptors, they're not going to win the title next year, next 2 years, next 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, I'll get with the way the NBA moves now.
But not literally, if you asked me to bet, held my hand to the fire, and said, you have to make a bet on Toronto winning the title or not winning the title in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I don't like those odds.
Right.
Give me another team.
Brooklyn Nets.
No. No. When's the last time Brooklyn Nets had some significant history?
Jason Kidd. Junkyard Dart, Jerome Williams, etc.
Yeah, you have to go back.
Right. You have to go back. You have to go back to the Jason Kidd era. Right. It's the thing. You thought you were going to have it with Durant. We talk about how difficult it is with Durant and Harden. You still couldn't get it done.
And James Harden. Or Durant and Kyrie.
Right. That how difficult this is. Again, it's not easy to do this. Sixers. No.
Trust the process, I think.
No. Like even with Joel Embiid having MVP seasons, no.
Do they have to drop that motto at this point?
You got to do something different.
Because like if you say that, people are going to start getting
But you
upset.
have a top 20 player when he's healthy and when he cares. But okay, remember he was the top 5 player. He's
got an MVP.
He had the MVP. The Charlotte Hornets and Washington Wizards. There's zero chance. And again, it makes my head hurt. It makes my head hurt. You can care about those franchises, but the Hornets, bruh, you got to go back to Zoe and Grandmama and Muggsy Bogues. Like, oh, what are we doing?
Hornets.
The Thunder have so they changed it. They flipped it. But if you had to bet that the Rockets would win, the Rockets haven't won since Akeem.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers, if you had to bet that the Lakers win a title, NBA title in the next 5 years, what are you betting?
Next 5 years.
Next 5 years, Lakers. Right. Right. You got to think about it. Denver Nuggets. Do you think the ship's gone? Like you because you know how tough it is.
Yeah, the West teams just scare the living. I'm assuming that I only get to pick one team. Then no.
No, the Clippers.
No.
Never have. T-Wolves.
No.
Never have. Golden State, if you had to bet on the Golden State Warriors winning an NBA title in the next 5 years, what are you betting?
No, not with that pay cap. No, if you give me 10 years, I'll trust it.
5 years, bro.
No.
Grizzlies.
No.
Sacramento Kings, never.
Never.
Dallas Mavericks. 5 years.
Yes.
You're betting 5 years. Why?
Cooper Flag, Klay Thompson, even the guys like Derek
Cooper
Lively.
Flag is not going to be
Kyrie. He doesn't need.
This is not a Caitlin Clark situation.
He doesn't need to be it.
He does.
He needs to be a significant role player, and then
you betting on Kyrie?
I mean, we're talking 4 or 5
Kyrie's
years.
gone. He's out. Free agent.
That's right. All right, let me reserve it.
Right.
There's one team that I want to take. Then.
Phoenix Suns.
No, definitely not the Phoenix Suns.
Portland Trailblazers.
No.
Spurs.
No.
Next 5 years. You don't think Wembanyama gets them?
No, I'm there's one team I'm going for, and you know which one.
Pelicans.
No, definitely not them.
Utah Jazz.
No.
Never. Right. So you understand that if you're betting on the next 5 years, how difficult it absolutely is to win a title in the NBA. It's not easy. And we could do the same thing for the Big Ten Conference in football. So we will go to break and we will do that. We will talk about it. That the likelihood of teams winning a Big Ten title in football, and then we'll do the same thing for Major League Baseball. Because I just want to keep reminding people, first of all, it's not easy to do. And second, people aren't working hard enough to do it. So Harrison, we'll finish it up when we come back.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and
sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner?
Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de the Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
If you're a veteran, our nation has created a wide range of benefits to thank you for your service. But it can be difficult to navigate the process of determining eligibility, filing claims, appealing decisions, and securing the benefits you've earned. Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. These services are 100% free. So visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Out here on Nebraska's calm, welcoming waters, fishing is a breeze. It's the sweet spot where solo anglers find quiet before the catch, families reel in memories, and first-timers discover what makes fishing so special. From the Panhandle to the Platte, the best fishing happens here, beneath Nebraska skies. Get started at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're listening to One on One with DP, brought to you by Canopy Street Market on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It's crazy to think how many fan bases think they have a legitimate shot to win. Like,
how many championships have you seen that you weren't coaching? You get a little special area because you used to coach, but how many championships that you were just fans of?
I was spoiled for a bit. Yeah. Well, because we also got the Orioles in DC. So when the Senators left, the Orioles run. Like, I actually saw Brooks Robinson, Jim Palmer. Like, I saw those. We would drive to Baltimore on the weekends and watch the Orioles. Remember the heartbreak of watching them lose to the amazing Mets in '69, because it shouldn't have happened. Like, it was an upset of monumental proportion, but you got to follow both the Brooks Robinson and Cal Ripken eras of Orioles. So that was there. I was there for the West and Elvin Hayes Bullets winning in '78. I was in high school, and it carried us for a very long time.
Is it carrying you still, or is that?
Oh, I get emotional about that because they were never that ever again.
No,
like, they lost the next year to the same Supersonics team that they got demolished in that series. And then they haven't been that since. Like, not even in the Chris Webber, Juwan Howard era, they weren't that. They got to the conference semifinals, but they weren't that. There's this guy, Michael Jordan. He kind of ran things.
Great guy.
Same thing for the Utah Jazz, to be around the Jazz, and it didn't matter. Stockton Malone couldn't get him over the hump. That's how difficult it was. 2 of the 20 greatest players couldn't get it done. It's not easy, people. It's not easy. The Astros, when I was in Houston, that was special. Yeah.
You've timed up your stops really well.
Well, this is
obviously not intentional.
I'll say this for Husker fans. Be glad I'm here. I bring chips.
So far,
I bring chips.
I mean,
I bring
lock
chips.
into the Husker wrestling program, and all of a sudden we got 2 champions. AJ Ferrari,
Supernovas. I bring chips, man. And then the program's there. So but we know how difficult it is. So as you and I were talking, again, full discussion, whether they have a chance to win. How many teams in the Big Ten have a legitimate chance that you would bet substantial amount of money that they could actually win the Big Ten title in football this year? I would say 2, and maybe only 1.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2, just because, and I think the 2 are obvious. Oregon, Ohio State.
Like, that's
Oregon beat Ohio State last year, and then Ohio State. They beat each other, but I'm not reaching anywhere else.
And
Penn State,
how many programs in the Big Ten Conference would you project and say that I'm willing to bet money that they will win a Big Ten title in football over the next 5 years? It's the same 2.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Now I'll throw them in Penn State if you give me 5 years.
5 years? But Penn State was the last time Penn State won a Big Ten football title. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, it's not easy.
I will say, if we did not have the old school where Iowa just kept getting the bid.
But those days are gone.
Exactly. So now it's just the best 2 seeds, but unfortunately Oregon's here now. So,
but for folks who would bet Iowa, when was the last time Iowa won?
I'm not saying I would never bet Iowa, but at least that'd give Penn State some opportunities to be the other team.
So we know how rare it is.
Yes.
For team, before you jump all the way down on the bandwagon and down the rabbit hole that Nebraska hasn't won a conference title since, and there's the story. That in a deep, the expectation, the hope, you can hope for success. But the reality is, are we asking Nebraska football to do a thing that, quite frankly, is 98% difficult for them to do? 99%? Like, lightning in a bottle has to happen for Nebraska to want to get. And you said, does Nebraska win a Big Ten title in the next 5 years? Forget about national title, Big Ten title in the next 5 years.
No. I'm just being, I hope I'm wrong.
And that's not hater. Yeah. That means everything has to happen so immaculately in order and so we just, as we have these discussions, being a realist and being a fan are both allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not wrong for saying, quite frankly, I think this is where we stand.
Well, DP, I don't know. Have you gone on to you might have missed it, but for a while there at the beginning, and we have to wrap up on this, but there was a part where people thought the media was just selling positivity all the time, that they were just like trying to convince. I'm like, I think everyone's just very susceptible to getting positive from the media. Then the season plays out, and like you said, only one team wins the entire thing. Two teams get to go compete in it.
We want Nebraska to do well because of all the good things that happen when Nebraska football does well. And that makes perfect sense. Our greatest humanity is built on it. That collectively, we're rooting for each other. Yes. We're rooting for our own. We're rooting for each other. And that's the good in it. And you can do that. And when small good things happen, you are building a bridge to greater things happening. I just think this bridge that we're talking about, it's like the Golden State Bridge. It's a bridge. Like, it's a thing. But we're still going to root like crazy all the way.